It's time for us to get love right, folks. And so we invite you to check out the King and Queen of Hearts.
This is an incredible training for couples who are struggling in unsatisfying sex lives.
It's also for lifelong learners, people whose relationship is great and they want to make it even better.
In this 3-part training that is filled with 8 different tutorials like the art of tantric kissing, eye gazing that is deep and intimate, connective, and not creepy, and sacred sexual meditations, you do them with your lover to juice you up before sex. Communication tips and really, really valuable relationship essentials are all found in this training.
You know, a common mistake couples make is they wait, they put it off, they avoid, they resist. And if you want to continue doing that, well, good luck. But if you really want to make a change, get this today. Don't let another month go by where you're losing precious connection with your partner.
Plus, you can't beat the price on this program. One of our clients, Casey, said a spark in their intimacy is back on track.
Now, Sarah and her husband, you know what she told us, Willow? She said, finally, he learned how to kiss her right.
Oh my God, hallelujah. So happy for Sarah.
So if you want some radical changes in your love life, go to sexreimagine.com, click on courses, and scroll until you find the King and Queen of Hearts. And because you are a fan of the podcast, you can use the King and Queen 10 code in order to get 10% off. That is King and Queen 10, and you can use it in the checkout. Hey there, you are listening to the Sex Reimagine podcast. This is Leah Piper, the co-host with Dr. Willow Brown.
Hey there, everybody. Today we had a phenomenal interview with Larissa Soehn, who is an international best-selling author and the CEO of NextPage Publishing. Now, not only is she amazing and a book publisher, which I'm very interested in, but she's also had the most amazing, fun story of sexual awakening in the last 3 years as it relates to cannabis. So for all you stoners out there, you're going to love this episode. And for all of those of you who are interested in using cannabis to enhance and awaken your relationship to your body, your sensuality and your sexuality, twist up, light up, turn on, and fall in love with Larissa.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagine podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
Larissa, welcome to the show. We are so excited to hear your story and this process of sexual awakening that you've experienced.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited to hear about how cannabis supported your sexual awakening, because here in California, it is very cannabis friendly state. And, I work with a lot of clients with all different kinds of medicines. And this one I feel like gets overlooked a lot, and the power of what it can do for you. And not only that, but Larissa is a publisher and I need help publishing my book, y'all. My book has been written and done for 3 years now, and it feels broken. I need a healer, a book healer. So Larissa and I are
I'll save your book. It's
off
okay.
screen later about that. But yeah, today we're really going to focus in on Larissa's sexual awakening and what that all entailed. So we're stoked you're here, Larissa.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and terrifying to be here all at the same time.
Yeah, this is the first time you've really spoken about
is.
this on a platform like this.
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Well, you're in good hands.
Yeah. So just imagine we're just sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee or a glass of
Drinking some
wine,
tea.
shooting the breeze, three
Just
girlfriends.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
talking.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, how you grew up and what sort of the inflection points that eventually led you to this awakening.
Sure. So I grew up in a remote small town in northern British Columbia. Didn't have any affiliations to religion or anything like that. Didn't have a very emotionally close relationship with my parents. It was not an open conversation, or it was never a platform I could come and ask questions. I remember at one time asking my mom what a boner was, and she just pale face, didn't
She
turn
went
around
white.
from the doing the dishes, right? And so
She froze.
she froze, and don't blame her. I was probably 8 at the time, so maybe not the best question for an 8-year-old, but like I was curious. And I think that was kind of my first example of like, maybe this isn't something I should be talking about. If it
Mm.
can't ask my
Mm.
mom, I probably can't ask any. And it's not
Mm.
something I should talk about. And so, normal teenage years, was sexually active around the age of 16, went through all this, and then, bounced around a little bit, did my thing, a little exploration. But I never really understood that I could actually have fun having sex and that
Mm.
it could be something that I could enjoy. Everything I saw on TV or, searching the dirty sites when I was definitely
Porn.
18.
Yeah.
Definitely 18. Wink, wink.
Definitely
It
not
always
under
seemed
18.
centered around the man, right?
Mhm.
And everything was supposed to be for the man. And so I went into all my sexual relationships thinking I was there for his pleasure and to look good and feel good and make the right sounds and all of these things. And it wasn't until marijuana became legalized in my province, in my country, because I'm in Canada, that it gave me a tool to get out of my freaking head. And I
Mhm.
think that was the awakening, is I was able to finally shut down all of the voices, all of the expectations, all of the beliefs of what I should be and how I should feel and how I should act, and just be in my body. And it's been about 2 years, and it's been a stunning ride, I can tell
Oh
you.
my God, I love it. I mean, and I feel like so many males and females really can relate to that. Like, oh, I have to look right, I have to sound right, the performance around sexuality, and especially for women that it should look or feel or show up a certain way, and don't worry about what you actually are feeling. Like, don't just about how you're looking and how you're sounding. And so that can totally take away, it gets you really stuck in your head. I can't tell you how many women Leah and I have both worked with where we're just like, that's half the journey, is just getting them out of their head and into their body. So I'm curious, when you started using cannabis, I'm sure you started using it before, like outside of sexuality as well. Were you noticing more sensation and more being in your body with it in those cases?
Yeah, so I was recently diagnosed with ADHD and autism, so a beautiful little sandwich to make up my personality there. And so for a long time, I thought what I was doing was weird, and that it was abnormal, and it was like I stim, like I make weird noises sometimes, or I play with things, and if I can't do those things, I get really uncomfortable and I get really in my head and I get really overwhelmed. And if you've ever had sex before, it can be a lot of sounds and a lot of sensations and a lot of different feelings, and it can be really overwhelming. And that was my whole life. Every day was like that. I used to work in corporate. I used to have to go to the office every single day, and be in big crowds, and it was just overwhelming. And so I originally started using cannabis because I was just overwhelmed.
Mm.
And what it did was it helped shut the head off and just feel my body. And I can't tell you, I probably have gone 30 years without ever feeling my body.
Wow.
Right,
That must have
right.
been such a like black and white moment, like seeing in color for the first time.
It really was.
Were you
Yeah.
using it? Were you smoking or edibles?
Edibles is my preferred. I've tried teas, I've tried the gummies, I've
Yeah.
tried chocolates, all of it, but edibles.
And
is where
edibles generally drop you into your body way more than smoking. Smoking can sometimes drop you into your head even more. So.
Yeah. I found that smoking really hurt my lungs, and then I didn't want to
Yeah.
feel it. So I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't for me.
Yeah. That's good that you found your tool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would see in our classes a lot of women sort of going, well, yeah, sex is really for them. I don't know how to make it about me. And also, there's a thing around, I have to be successful at this. So if I can get it out, get it in, and get it off, then I'm a success. And then I can kind of hide behind the fact that I'm not really feeling what other women must be feeling. So was there also a comparison, a pain of comparing yourself to other women that came along with this? Or was it really just wanting to be good enough for whatever partner you were with?
Honestly, I don't even think I knew what an orgasm really felt like with a partner until like 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, when I started exploring this. So I don't know if it was I don't think I had a base to compare to. I thought this was it. Like, it feels good. Like, it's okay. It's not earth-shattering. I don't crave it.
It's not torture.
It's not torture. I'm okay
Okay,
with
yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
So what now, was it like the very first time you had edibles and had sex, it all came to
No.
fruition, or was it like a gradual journey, and how did that unfolding of your flower
That
happen?
my cannabis flower, my
Your
sexuality
cannabis
flower,
and
all of the
lotus flower.
flowers. I think that's a good question because it took time, right? Like, to find, like you said, am I a smoker or do I like the edibles?
Mm.
How much? What's the dose? And my gosh,
Right.
cannabis is getting so complicated with strains and things like
Right.
that. And so there's indica, there's sativa, and so figuring out those two. So it took time. It took
Mhm.
experimentation to find one that I was really comfortable with, and then what was my dose, right?
Yeah.
And so what is your dose? And do you like indica or sativa or a hybrid?
And
Yeah.
also, do you happen to be a more sensitive person, like somebody? It's just for our listeners. So if they're thinking about using cannabis in this way, you'll give them a nice kind of,
Yeah.
landing
I'll
ground.
tell all of you what I learned, which is the great little shop owner who told me about this. So there's the two strands, right? There's indica and sativa, and then there's the hybrid. The way I remember them, do you want to be couch? That's indica. Or do you want to be laughing and giggling? That's sativa. And so when it came to like what kind of night I was going to have, I had to ask myself, like, what do I want? If I wanted to be couch with indica, and I
What
wanted
does
more
that
of a
mean?
relaxed
Into coach? Like as in
couch,
couch.
like laying on the couch. Like, you want to
Oh,
be
into
couch, like
couch.
relaxing.
Okay, sorry, it was Canadian
Not
American.
coach.
Yeah.
Into soap.
Yeah. There you go.
So I had to pick like based on how I was feeling. So sometimes like if I just wanted like to be touched and like sensitive, like, rubbing my arms and my legs, like that was relaxing to me. That was into couch, right? I want indica. I wanted to be relaxed. I wanted to be caressed and soothed into an easy sexual space.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to laugh and experiment and have fun, I was sativa. Right. And so I kind of got to pick, like, what am I up for tonight? What do I want to try? Like sometimes if we wanted to try a new toy or something, it would be
Right.
sativa because I would want to be a little bit more adventurous.
And curious.
Right.
Yeah.
Have to be a little more
Yeah.
playful.
Playful.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it really depended. And of course, it depends on the mood of my partner too. Like, what are you up for? Like, what version of me do you want? Because the cannabis really does influence what
Hugely.
I'm up
Now,
for.
would your partner take it as?
He cannot because he works for a petrochemical industry, and so he can't. All he can do is
it's
drink.
just you on it, and he's just
Just me.
enjoying a whole different version of you.
Yes.
Have you guys been together for a while? Like, was there years?
Yeah,
where...
we're coming up on 13 years now that we've
Wow.
been together.
So there are
And-
many years of one version sexually, Larissa, and then all of a sudden cannabis stepped in, and now there's options.
Oh, and we are having so much fun. I think that was the other thing of like, I'd been with this man for about 10 years before I started using cannabis, and he had what he liked, and he was happy.
He was
like,
happy with it.
And so like, I never thought like we needed more.
Mhm.
But now that there is more, we actually have to go days where like we make eye contact because like I don't think I can do it tonight. Like the last 2-3 nights was like rambunctious. We need to tone it down.
My yoni needs a break, a respite time.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this. Is so great for like so many couples out there who I always say this about couples. They think they're having good sex, but they don't really know what's possible beyond that. And so I just love the curiosity that this plant medicine has opened up for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've come across a lot of people who I know who talk about how much marijuana is an aphrodisiac for them and is like a real turn on. And they report the same thing, Larissa, that it takes them out of their head and brings them into their senses. And when you're connected to your senses, you've got access to sensuality. And so it kind of brings about this full presencing because you're feeling the sensation of your skin. You're breathing in the breath, and you can really breathe and feel the breath coming into your system and smelling things that smell good if you light a candle. You know, like there's all these little things, the tasting of each other's skin, all gets accentuated. They become more bright.
Mhm.
And then there's someone like me who's like, oh God, I'm probably gonna have a panic attack. I'm gonna want to get under the covers and not get up. I'm gonna want to be under the bed. Like there's this relationship that I have to marijuana now where it's rarely a good time. In fact, it just feels like too much sensation. And it makes it really hard for me to want to be present with someone else because I'm managing all of the overwhelming sensation that I feel bombarded with.
But
So
you used to enjoy it, right, Leah?
when I smoked
Yeah.
all the time, all day long,
Yeah.
it was a way of life for me. But I was
Right.
also hiding from a lot of things that I was having a hard time confronting, having to do with trauma and an emotional past. So I
Yeah.
think I was using marijuana as a crutch
Mhm.
instead of this thing that opened me. And so I think this is where dosing becomes really important because I'm sure if I had like a very small puff, you know, or like for me 0.5 or 0.10
Is
in the mint
good.
or the gummy, that's a little bit more manageable. But even
Yeah.
sometimes those low doses are just too much sensation.
They
So I always
you're
kind of
very
take a look at like plant medicine and sort of going into alternate states of consciousness is for, I think it comes with the season. I think that we're in different seasons and in different chapters in our life, which makes these things more joyous and more fun because of the season or the chapter that is presenting itself. And I think maybe right now I'm just in a chapter of my life where I don't have a tolerance for it in my system, but I'm really hoping that when I get into my 50s, it all changes again. And
Yeah.
like
Well, I
really
think
enjoy partying a little bit.
I think one of the things that you've developed so much since you were, using it more in your 20s is a strong sensitivity,
Yeah.
and so that's why I asked
I'm
you,
not covering up
Larissa.
my sensitivity like I used to.
Yeah, you don't need to like distract in that way. You can actually just be with the sensitivity and sexuality. When we're getting into aroused states and getting turned on, even if we're just in a sweet cuddling session,
Yeah.
we're already dropping dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin. And then when we have, cannabis to add to that, just bolsters up all of those hormones because we also get those same hormones when we do cannabis. So now we've got two scenarios that are flooding our system with these basically drugs, because these hormones are like endogenous drugs that we have full access to. So it feels for some people like they don't have access to it because they can't get out of their head and they're stuck in that stuck place in their head and they can't get into creativity. Yeah, they've got too much cortisol flooding their system. By the way, y'all, the fastest way to cleanse your bloodstream of cortisol is to have a big old fat
Oh,
orgasm,
to have an
because
orgasm. That's good to know.
that will bring in all the oxytocin and replace all that cortisol. So that is sort of a next kind of place I would like to direct this conversation, Larissa, is what have you noticed? Like you work in publishing. You tend to be a more sort of like personality A type, it sounds like, like let's make sure everything's right where it's supposed to be kind of person. So how have things evolved and changed for you since you've been having this more epic, awakened, connected sexual experience night after night after night with your partner? What's changed in your business? What's changed in your relationship with your family,
Yeah, like
home,
how does it affect the
community?
other sectors in your life besides just maybe having more fun?
That's a really good question. I want to emphasize too what you said, Leah, about the sensitivities to it and things like that. I think, and the seasons, and this would be how it's changed the other aspects of my business and my life and my parenting as well. Like it's made a big difference. I can emulate that high feeling that I get while I was consuming cannabis while I'm sober now because I get what it's supposed to feel like. I never understood
Mm.
that before. And so I'm at the same, I'm getting closer to, I think, where you are, Leah, without like the sense, I know it's sensitive to it. I can still have cannabis and things like that, but I don't need it to have a good time in the bedroom or to
Oh, that's
meditate or to
good.
do breath work. But but I never knew what it was supposed to feel like. I just learned like 2 days ago what belly breathing was supposed to feel like. Because everyone would
Wow.
say, like, breathe into your belly. And I'd breathe in and it would hurt. And my husband's like, I think you're doing it wrong. And I was like, how could I be doing it wrong? I don't understand. And then he drew a diagram for me. He's like, this is, but if I'm in my head, I can't understand that. I have to be in my
Yeah,
body.
you have to feel it, not understand it.
That's
yeah.
a really
Yeah.
good distinction. Yeah. How has it changed your parenting?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey guys, what would it be like if you could last 10 times longer when you're having sex?
We are going to teach you how to gain massive confidence as a lover, all without performance anxiety, gimmicks, or prescription.
This course is perfect for you if you've ever been mortified by a sexual encounter that ended way too early.
Or if you've ever avoided intimacy out of fear that you won't last as long as your lover desires. Or maybe you long to give your partner multiple orgasms but can't last long enough to make that a reality.
Well, good news, we've got your back. And it's in our course, Last 10 Times Longer. Go to sexreimagined.com/last-10x-longer.
And for all of our favorite listeners out there, we are giving you a discount, 20% off, y'all. Just put in podcast 20, all caps, podcast 20, to get your 20% off of this phenomenal course that you're going to want to review more than once.
The link is in the show notes. We cannot wait to see you inside this course. Plus, don't forget, we always got tons of bonuses. See you there.
So now that I have a healthier relationship with sex and what that looks like, and I will preface this, my daughter is only 7 years old. So the conversations are absolutely age appropriate, right? But it opens it up to the ability to not shame, because I was never shamed, right? But when the time comes for her, I'm going to have a very different approach to the sex talk. And even now, like as we come up against things like, how are babies made? Where do babies come from? Why do men have nipples? That's my daughter's favorite question. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, I recently learned an answer to this.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay,
Enlighten
there's
us.
no reason for them to have them. It's just like the biology just hasn't shifted. Like they're pointless. I mean,
Yeah.
except for some sensitivity, right? But
Well,
like they're not
actually-
needed biologically is basically the thing. Just like the hymen is not needed biologically. And the hymen is not actually an indicator of virginity. The hymen can be perforated. A woman who's in menopause can still have some of her hymen. The hymen can be parts and pieces. The hymen can break for any reason. So the hymen is not the sign of anything either. In fact, there's a piece having to do with the male prostate and the female hymen is a leftover from that. Just like the male nipples are a leftover from our whole biological system. Come As You Are, that's where I learned that.
Where'd you
The
learn
book.
it?
Come As You Are. It's
that
a
book,
brilliant book.
I just
Yeah.
read
It's
that
a great
book.
book, but it's hard to listen to, y'all.
Oh, I thought it was so easy to. I've listened to it 3 times.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you and I
Her
just have different
voice
tastes and the
bugs me.
voices.
Yeah. So anyway, it is a really smart book, though, y'all. Read it or listen, whatever you choose. But there are cultures where men do breastfeed, like indigenous cultures. Like it is possible for a man to
Yeah.
lactate.
Right.
So there
Under
are
very strenuous circumstances. maybe.
Yeah, it's totally.
And I think they're probably
going
gonna a woman who's. I mean, so can a woman who's postmenopausal.
Yeah, and let's
also.
not do. Most men don't have sensitive nipples, but some do.
Yes, and
they're
can be
so
very sensual.
fun to play with.
And
when they
even
do.
if your nipples aren't that sensitive, you can turn them on and
You
create
can
more
sensitize
sensitivity.
them.
So hey,
Yeah.
we're not saying
Okay, we're on a total nipple tangent.
Yes,
and
we'll
hymen
leave the
tangent.
nipples
Let's get
behind. We're
Larissa.
pro
Bring us
nipples.
back home. What were we freaking talking about?
anyways, for your daughter who was asking
Back
about
to-
nipples.
oh,
Oh
back to,
yeah, your
like-
daughter.
Yeah, the rest of my life. Like, so
Right.
I think the bedroom isn't like once you close the door, it doesn't stay in the bedroom anymore. We're not in that world of like you close the door and you don't talk about like the husband and wife, and the world's not pretending we don't have sex anymore.
Yes,
Like,
thank
you know,
God.
that's
Right.
not what we're doing. And even the conversations I have with my best friends now, they're different. They're more open. They're more accepting because we all kind of grew up with the same relationship to sex of like, you don't talk about it. The door's closed. It's behind closed doors. That's a mommy and daddy thing. We don't talk about
Right.
that. The conversations are getting more open. My gosh, I'm on this podcast. Never would I
Right.
have ever come here.
Right.
Right.
How cool. Yeah. I love that. I'm really curious, how has it changed your relationship? I imagine you guys are closer and more bonded. Like, can you describe sort of the intimacy shifts that you guys are experiencing, the emotional intimacy?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell just a very small story here. So in 2020, I got really, really sick. I had a mental health breakdown. I was hospitalized in and out for over a 6-month period. And it was really, really, really scary for everyone involved in my life. And my husband was my absolute rock through it all. He took care of our daughter, who was 3 at the time. He held down the home front. He, visited me in the hospital as much as he could because of COVID. And
Oh
he was
man, it was
everything.
during COVID too. That's
It was during
right.
COVID. So it was awful.
Yikes.
It was
Yeah.
really,
You
really
guys had a
awful.
rough-
And we went through hell, and we went through hell and back, and we survived. And so our emotional relationship is one of the most healthy ones I've ever seen amongst adults. And I don't say that lightly, but we talk about everything under the sun. We cry together. We lean on each other. We have just this incredible communication. So we were already really emotionally close. It was the physical aspect that was missing. I always really looked forward to having my period when it meant I wouldn't have to have sex, because it's not my thing to have sex on my period. And I always looked forward to it. I'm like, yes, a week off, right?
Right.
And now it comes along and I'm like, damn it.
Right.
I'm gonna wait.
You can still have
I know I
period
can.
sex.
It's just
a
like
thing.
not my thing. Like, we do showers and stuff sometimes, but like it's not
hard to
my
enjoy
most
it.
sexy time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so when we added the physical intimacy on top of the emotional intimacy we already had, I find my husband so sexy all of a sudden. And not that I didn't before, but like I look at him and sometimes he's like, what are you? And like I'm eating it with my eyes. He's like, you're making me uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so
I
sorry. Like,
love
I'll tone
that.
it down. But like I want him.
That's
I want him
awesome.
so
It's
much.
because you have new eyes. You're looking at life through a new set of lenses.
I can't tell you how many men who are listening to this right now, and they are so hungry for that.
I know.
It's like they don't feel desired, and we tend to think that doesn't matter to men, but I have a lot of male clients, and it's the thing that they wish they had in their life the most. Some of them are in partnerships, and they wish that their wife hungered for them the way they hunger for their wife. And it's so beautiful to hear you say that, because
Yeah.
there's so much longing for it.
Mhm.
And not just for men who are longing for it, women certainly who are longing for it.
Mhm.
So you guys get stoned. Let's find it.
Go get some edibles.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
it's not, and it was never about my husband, and I think that was
Right.
I don't want
Right.
men to feel like they're not desirable, that they're we aren't hungry for them. I just couldn't get out of my head
It was
the
Yeah.
to-do list, the checklist, the things I have to do, the appointments, the work.
Right.
It was all so much. I couldn't shut it off, and I didn't understand what shutting it off felt like. So it had never had anything to do with my husband. If
Yeah.
anything, he's in, like, we're both in our squishy dad bod era. Like we're not as fit as we were in our 20s, and we're not as, as I'm going to
That
put
can
it
be
in air
even
quotes.
more fun for sexuality.
Or even
'cause there's more to
hormonal.
grab onto, and
Yeah.
it feels softer and squishier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love my squishier body now because I look at my curves in the mirror and I'm like,
Damn.
like, nice.
Come get some.
Yeah. Isn't that so refreshing and wonderful to get to a stage in your life where you can look at your body and go, love the curves that you're in and love the soft places, and to also feel someone else loving those soft places. And we're so hard on ourselves, I think, as young girls and young women coming of age, and even well into middle age for many of us, where we think that it's all about being sexually attractive. And so we do all these things to try to lead with what it will get me love, is if I present this sexual picture, when really what gets us love, and usually leads to great sex, is just being ourselves.
Mhm.
And so it sounds like one of the big ahas was that you were experiencing things you simply had never experienced before. That thing of being in your body. What advice would you give other people who don't feel like they're really occupying their body and are in the skin that they're in. What advice would you have? How would you describe what's possible?
If edibles aren't your thing, like I get that, or you're in a situation like my husband where work won't allow you to, because there's still a lot of rules around when you can and can't consume cannabis. When I was really, really sick, when I was having my mental health breakdown, this was before cannabis was legal. It wasn't an option then. I would do a lot of grounding activities, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch. And just going through that process of every sense, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to bring me back into my body. No,
Go
I
through them
use that.
again for people who've never heard of that
Sure.
exercise.
So it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
Love it.
That's a
And-
great exercise. I've never
great
heard that
exercise.
grounding
Oh,
exercise.
really?
Yeah, I've heard
before.
of it, but I never
I
anchored
use
it.
I
I'm
use
gonna
the 5
memorize it.
senses in different ways. We both do, of course. So it's, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
that's a
cool.
fun one. Like if someone's going into panic mode or going into.
I was going to say, I use it for panic attacks. That's when
Yeah.
I would use it the most to bring
Yeah.
it back. But if you did it before you were about to go have, sex with your partner, that how erotic is that? 5
drops
things I
you
can
into
see.
present.
Right.
Like, right? Like
Right.
that's a very in your body in this moment activity that
Mhm.
you can't create the list, the shopping list in your head while you're running through those
That's right.
things.
It
Yeah.
forces you to be present.
It
Yeah.
forces you to feel your senses, and your senses are a doorway to presence. And when you take those 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and really receive them, instead of even you can change the lens a little bit more. And instead of I'm looking for 5 things, I'm receiving these 5 things. So then you're dropping even more into a parasympathetic state in your nervous system, which is where all the fun sexual activity gets to come
Yeah.
out and play.
That leads me to another question, which is, I don't know if you have certain spiritual beliefs or mystical experiences or, otherworldly. I think cannabis really brings people sometimes into a more spiritual or sacred or mystical experience. Has that been true for you in your experience?
Yes.
Tell us some
I say
thoughts.
yes with a laugh because I've been on this whole journey lately of spirituality. Again, I didn't grow up religious. Probably the opposite of religion. Religion was always kind of a bad thing in my books. Because if I slept over at my best friend's house on a Saturday night, I had to go to church on Sunday morning, and that was
a
the
drag.
worst.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So I grew up kind of avoiding religion. Honestly, God and Jesus, and it was bad words. I didn't say them, but in the last 2 years of trying to feel a part of something bigger, have my, my soul, my energy, my light connect to something outside of myself. Cannabis, again, it lets me shut off the logical side of my brain and tap into the feeling side of my body. And once I started just thinking, honestly, when I'm on cannabis, I just think a lot of the times. I just sit there and I ponder. I have a musings journal, I call it, and I just write down my thoughts. The
love
things
that.
that would come out, they could not be real. They had to come from somewhere, from something. And so spirituality wise, I have gone through a huge shift in the last 2 years, partly because I also wanted purpose. I wanted to feel like I was part of something bigger.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
I just have, I have something on the tip of my tongue, and then it floats away like a little wisp of marijuana smoke. It just comes and then it goes. Oh, I remember. I wanted to know if you have experimented with cannabis and self-pleasuring.
Let's take a quick break.
Ladies, do you want to explore your sexuality and experience true sexual healing?
The Vaginal Orgasms Masterclass teaches you and your partners how to unlock your full sexual potential and awaken the G-spot, the sacred spot, and the cervix for an unforgettable sexual experience. Would learning how to finally surrender and release grief, fear, and uncertainty benefit your outlook on life, love, and relationships? We certainly think so. Common misconceptions of the G-spot, including its anatomy and function as an erogenous zone, will be covered in this course.
Plus, we're going to teach you 7 different massage strokes for the G-spot that dissolve blocked energy and increase your pleasure tenfold.
We're going to teach you how to locate the sacred spot and the best methods to stimulate it for maximum pleasure.
And you're going to learn about cervical orgasm techniques, which are the most powerful and also often elusive style of climaxing. You know, this class is primarily geared toward women, but men have taken it as well and learned so much about how to pleasure their partners.
So get ready for multiple O's, my friends. And you can get all of that at sexreimagine.com/female-masterclass. And for being a listener of the show, we've got a beautiful coupon code for you. It is 20% off this course. Just type in podcast20, that's all caps, podcast20, and get yourself a great deal on this on-demand course.
Yes. So I masturbate quite frequently. It's huge, like you said, it's huge stress relief for me. But I've gotten to the spot, kind of what you said in the very beginning of the episode, Leo, like it felt like satisfaction. If I could get up, get in, and get done, I felt satisfied. And like to the point, like under 2 minutes, I was like, yeah, I did it. Right. Yeah. Now I'm at the spot of like
accomplished.
How long can I make it last? Right? Because
totally.
Now like 2-3 hour, 4 hours.
Yes, it's like how long
Right.
can I go for? How long can we go for? Because there was so much more to experience. Before it was just like it's all the vagina, right? Everything was right there, deep
Right.
belly, right there. But now it's like my arms, like rubbing my fingers down my arms. And like
inner
really
elbows,
Give me
inner
more
wrists.
arms, people.
Right?
Like rub
The
on
side
my
the
of the
arms.
chest, the neck. It's
Yes.
but like doing that myself because of course I'm high, right? And so sometimes my fingertips don't feel 100% like my own.
Yeah,
Which
totally.
is not the
Yeah.
and I can explore. I actually touch, like I not just a vibrator, not just a toy. I touch now, and I
Mhm.
never would have done that before. So
Feeling
definitely,
your own skin. Yeah, it's such a beautiful practice of self-love that, touching your
Yeah.
own body and taking time and finding like is a scratch good there, or is like a tickle good over there? Do I like to be squeezed over here? And then it gives you so much more information when you come together with your partner.
Mhm.
I've been practicing with marijuana since I was 13, so I don't really have this reference of like a point in time where things shifted for me as an adult. It's just always been a part of my experience. And it's gotten me into some sticky situations along the way in my 20s and stuff, for sure. And so I'm just curious for you, Larissa, like, were there some experiences that you had maybe both on your own and with your partner that you could give us a little bit more detail on of like, what actually was that pivotal moment where you're like, oh, now I get it. Now I feel that in some other way.
I think Leah, you touched on it earlier too. Breath.
Uh-huh.
Once I got out of my head and into my body and I started playing with my breath during sex, I've always been fairly vocal in sex. Again, part of that is because that's what the porn stars
what
did.
you're
so
supposed to
that's
do.
what I thought I
Right.
should do.
Yeah.
But I actually realized, no, I really do need that now. And I need it from him as well. He was
Yeah.
very, very quiet.
Quiet.
And so
Right.
we have been playing with breath. And I think that was the first time when I realized that sex wasn't just, penis and vagina. Like it was more than that.
Yeah.
There was more playing into it. It was, and even just hands. Like it was, we do this thing. I'm going to get really into it here for a second. We do
Yeah.
this thing where when
That's
the
what we
first
want.
Yeah.
penetration, if I'm on top, I go as slow as I can. And the
Yeah.
challenge is to hold our breath while we're doing
Ooh,
it.
you hold the breath while entering. Now, do you guys look into each other's eyes at the same time?
I think so. It's usually like, I don't know. I'm looking around, I'm feeling, but most of the time I'm looking, but I'm not looking. I'm
Uh-huh.
just feeling it, and it's so intense. And because I'm on top, I'm in 100% control, right? And so I can do whatever I want, and it's this power trip as much as it is this sensation and the breath. And I think once, like, I've never heard about anyone talk about breath work in sex before.
Oh, well, welcome
It's
to
the
Tantra.
part of our
Yeah,
world.
exactly.
That's all we talk about all the time.
Yeah, I need to listen to
It's
this
seriously the name
podcast
of the
more.
game. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you guys just stumbled into it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
and that was the aha moment for me of like, wow, what don't we know? Kind of a thing.
That's so
I
cool.
love
Yeah.
that.
And I
You're
love the
really-
sounding too that you've realized makes
Yeah.
a big impact.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Willow. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, I mean, you're just really like highlighting, what we're always saying is like, you don't know what you don't know. And so that's why we're, working so hard to educate the masses on like how to breathe, how to sound, how to run energy through different meridian systems in your body, how to draw orgasmic energy to your pineal gland so that you can have a more enlightened orgasm, how to draw arousal energy up to your heart to burst through all that pain and trauma and suffering that we all went through as children, like how to draw even sexual energy to an injury, to a neck, shoulder, hip, broken elbow. Like you can draw this arousal energy and really use it as medicine to heal different places in your body. And one of the, you might be interested to, you may know this, Larissa, but it sounds like you haven't really dipped into the Tantra world or education or sphere yet. So you might.
But it
not
also
have
sounds
heard-
like you're a natural, FYI.
I know you're a natural, but there's more to learn, Larissa.
Yeah.
There's more to learn. So one of the things that it's an ancient tantric practice is called sex magic. So it's really about like sitting down with your partner. So you guys can do this at home tonight. Sitting down with your partner and just dreaming together. What would be the ideal scenario for your future? What would you want? What would he want? What would you want for your daughter? What would you want as a family unit? And really like painting a really clear picture of that. You could even go so far as to literally paint a picture or make a vision board with each other, make a family vision board and then create an altar for that and then make love to the vision through each other's bodies. So that is just like where we can take sexuality when we start to,
Be
breathe
purposeful with
and
the energy,
sound
yeah.
and get out of our heads and into our bodies. And look, I think I've been doing so much amazing sex magic lately. I think I manifested Larissa. Here she is showing up on whatever morning it is today with publisher next to her name. I'm like, I need a publisher.
And lo and behold.
So there you go. All kinds of magic can start to unfold.
Yeah. I'm curious. Okay, I got two questions, but they don't necessarily relate to each other. One is, so it sounds like your experience of orgasm has more developed for you. The sensation of orgasm has been more possible for you with the use of cannabis. It sounds like you kind of had experience of orgasms, but not that much before cannabis.
True. Yes.
Now, are you having multiple orgasms? Is it more like you're one and done?
I usually get multiple. So my husband and I have this system now, and it's beautiful. I orgasm first through toys and manual stimulation with him, and then we come together. And then sometimes, if I'm not feeling like I'm done, after he's done, I go again.
Okay,
and
cool.
that's
Nice.
the routine, and it is gorgeous.
I
Good.
love that. I
So
love
you guys
that.
are having 3 solid orgasms.
Yes.
Yeah. So hear
And
that,
that's
audience.
Hence the taking a break.
Yeah.
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 If you want an orgasm breakthrough, consider cannabis, possibly. If you want a multiple orgasm breakthrough, consider cannabis. And then have you tried other plant medicines? Like, well, they don't have to be plant medicines. The one I was thinking of is MDMA. Anything like that.
Psilocybin,
And you don't have to answer that
MDMA.
question if that's private, or psilocybin, or some of the other things that people use to enhance sexual experiences.
I've played lately. I actually just did magic mushrooms, so psilocybin on the weekend. And that was not a sexual experience for
Yeah.
me.
It's
Yeah,
never been
it's
sexual for me
usually not
either.
that.
No,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one was very spiritual, I would say. I
Yeah.
definitely went deep into my soul. My husband was my trip setter and, to keep me safe and things, because I'd never done anything like that before. So that one was a no-go for me. MDMA I have done before in my clubbing days. But I found that was, it dried me out. Like it made me like thirsty, vaginally, everything. And and then I was just
interesting.
distracted that way. And so the most effective one for me has been
Cannabis.
cannabis. Yes.
Yeah. there are different kinds of MDMA out there. And maybe what you were getting back in the clubbing days was a little bit not so clean as
The stuff
possible.
we pick up off the floor when it falls down. Like,
Yeah. You never know what you're getting out there on the party floor, on the dance floor. So yeah, there's so much. And, here in California, I mean, some of my dearest friends are, forging the frontier of MDMA therapy and working with couples and working with psilocybin quite a bit. There's so much, I'm actually really loving all the baby boomers who are like, I'm trying magic mushrooms. I'm like, fantastic. Welcome to the party. And it's great to have a guide, somebody who's really versed in it, somebody who knows how to like take you through the journey, and also has a strong sense of spirituality and then practicality as well. Like, we don't want to just like blow our third eye wide open and then not be able to integrate that into our lives. I think that's a really important part of it. And one of the big plant medicines that everyone's doing these days is ayahuasca, and it's rampant here in California. And so I see people doing everything from, doing it every single weekend, doing it, once a
Yeah, I
month
cannot
at
imagine
least.
having sex on ayahuasca. I know some people
you're
are
not
venturing into that, but I'm
You're
like, oh,
actually
geez.
part of the dieta for ayahuasca is to be celibate and to be celibate afterwards.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
some people aren't doing it traditionally, and they
really,
are going into those realms. And I'm always just like, having done it a couple times, I'm like, there is no way. I can't even imagine opening that door. I mean, God bless those that
definitely not.
got the wiring for that.
It's not for that really, but there's this integration piece that's so important after each one of these journeys, and even after one of your cannabis sexual experiences. Like, that's a journey in and of itself. So to take the time to integrate what you experienced and the elation and the ecstatic and the rapture that you experienced, to integrate that into the way you take your daughter to school, the way you cook dinner, the way you do that next publishing project, whatever you're doing, is so crucial. And I think a thing that a lot of people are skipping over. So I just want to highlight that for all of those of you who are, dabbling in just cannabis.
So, Willow,
or
what would that look like
deeper
if you were suggesting to people out there?
in how to integrate.
Yeah, what would be a process if you were
I
saying
think
people
like
should
getting
integrate?
support, getting guidance, coaching, making sure that that what you learned, because it can be a little bit elusive. I don't know if you've experienced this, Larissa, but it's like the next day you're like, God, that was amazing. But what exactly actually did happen? Like, you can forget things, and that's one of the things that I think is so powerful about doing tantric practices, like sacred sexual practices, completely sober, is you don't have that forgetfulness that you do with plant medicine. So I think both have a lot of value. And I think it's just really crucial for people to take the time to become what they see, what they learn, what they experience, to like you have, Larissa, and you were basically talking about that. Like, now you have a different way that you talk to your girlfriends about sexuality. There's a different way that you're going to talk to your daughter about sexuality as she's coming of age. There's a different relationship that there's more creativity, I imagine, in your work as well. So that's what I mean by integrating, instead of just like, I need another journey, I need another fix, I need another awakening real quick.
Well, I think another thing of what can be a simple integration is just reflection. That's really all you need to integrate. You don't really need a fancy therapist or anything else. You just need to reflect on, what did I love about that? And how else do I want to carry that into other parts of my life, like you were mentioning, Willow? I'm curious, Larissa, have you ever had an experience where it was like, ooh, I don't want to take that much again, or ooh, didn't really love that? Like, is there any warnings from your experience, anything that you can share with people of what not to do?
Yes. So, because cannabis became legal very quickly in Canada, there were shops popping up everywhere, online and on the streets. So for a long time, I only ever went in person to buy my cannabis so I could ask questions, right? I wanted to
Okay.
ask questions behind the counter of like, what do the different strains mean? What do they do? How do I dose myself safely? And then read all the stuff online. But recently I went to an online shop and I ordered stuff online, and they sent me enough cannabis and magic mushrooms to kill like an entire herd of horses. Like it is insane how much they just mailed to me and put on my doorstep. Didn't have to sign for it or anything. But the packaging was really different than what I was used to getting in the stores. In the stores, they come with this big symbol on them. It's a big stop sign with a marijuana leaf on it, you know. So my kid, if I ever did make a mistake and left it out where I shouldn't have, she knew. We trained her. This is a no-go symbol because edibles look and taste like candies. And that
Right.
is
Good
terrifying,
point.
having a kid in the house. Well, these ones I ordered online, they look and taste like candies without any of the marking. They come in this cute little
Oh.
pink package that my daughter could just pop the lid off. They look like peach rings. And they have 30 milligrams of THC. And if
Oh
you're not
my
familiar,
gosh.
that's a ton.
That's a ton.
And so I accidentally, and the labeling of them is horrendous. It's like 10 THC gummies with this and this and this. And it's just this big long paragraph of stuff. And I misread them one time. And I overdosed a lot. Like I took
what did that
the
look
full
like?
30 grams in one, and my max
my
is about
God.
10. So
You
3
must have been
times.
floored.
Yeah.
Well, I threw up. I got really sick
Oh.
because my body was like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah.
Wow.
that was terrifying. And
How long
so
did it take to come down?
probably about 6 hours, I would
Right.
say. But by the time I actually was coherent enough to like deal with myself, and I was alone at the time too,
Mm.
because I didn't think I needed a partner. I'd
Mm.
been doing this for years, but I made a mistake and I overdosed. That was really scary. And so really, when you're starting out, start low, like 1 milligram, start super low, see how it goes. See how, because our bodies digest different too, right? See
Right.
how
Yeah.
long it takes to impact you, and then just slowly work your way up. And my line is like, once I start forgetting stuff the next day, like if I can't look back and remember exactly what I did, I don't have a great memory sober, but like, you know, comparatively,
Yeah.
then I did too much. That's kind of always been
Okay.
my bar.
Great advice.
Yeah.
And then what
so
is your like what would you tell listeners, take 1 milligram and wait half an hour, 45 minutes?
I would say probably like an hour,
An-
about an hour. For me, I think I have a generally a slow digestive system. So it takes about an hour for it to fully kick in.
But
because
it can
fully-
come on as quick as half an hour, y'all.
Yes. Yeah.
Can come on quicker. So yeah, so if you're taking, maybe you take 1 milligram or 2 milligrams and then an hour goes by and you're like, nah, I don't really feel anything, then, take another 1 or 2 at that point and find your dose slowly. Like there's no rush in figuring out what your best dose is. And over time, you will build up a tolerance. And so your dosage will increase. And
Depending
there's
on the
really
frequency.
nothing wrong with that. It's a really medicinal plant. So
Mhm.
have at it.
Yeah. Like my best friend's highest dose is 2.5 milligrams. She won't go
Can't
any
go
higher.
over that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And I'm
fine.
10.
I'm like that too. I'm like 2.5
Yeah.
is perfect for me.
Yeah.
Well, this has been
Love
so
it.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
been wonderful to hear your story, for you to share your wisdom, what you've learned, what's opened for you, and painting that picture for our audience. We're super grateful.
Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Anything you would want to leave our listeners with, where they can find you, or any final words of wisdom?
I think my husband, he asked me to say this. Men, the vibrator, the toys are your friends, not your enemies.
Oh,
Okay,
Lean
okay.
in. That
Love
one's
it.
from my husband.
Thanks, hubby. True.
Mine is, if the more you enjoy it, the more your partner will enjoy it. I
Yeah.
always thought that my pleasure was selfish. And if I wanted to go first, that was selfish. And what I'm very quickly realizing, I have realized now that that's not true. The more fun I have, the more fun he has.
That's
Mm.
so awesome and so true.
Such good wisdom.
And I want to let our listeners know that Larissa so graciously offered you a free gift. If you've ever wanted to write a successful ebook, she's got a free guide, and you should definitely download that and start sharing the wisdom and the information that you know to others, and she can help you with that process. The link will be in the show notes for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Larissa. Thanks, everyone. Much love.
Oh, and stay tuned because the dish is coming up, and you don't want to miss that with Dr. Willow and I.
Don't miss the dish.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
Pass that dish, Dr. Willow.
Dish.
May actually pass that bong, Dr.
Pass.
Willow.
Pick it, pack it, fire it up, come along. And take a hit from the bong. Do you remember that from Cypress Hill from the 90s?
Yeah. You know,
Oh
I
my
was a
God.
great joint roller.
You said you could
Actually, I'm
roll a
still a
joint
good
with
joint
one
roller.
hand, didn't
Oh,
you?
I can't roll a joint with one hand.
With
Can
one
you?
hand.
No. That's
No, I need to use 2 hands.
yeah. I gotta have 2 hands.
But man, I used to be such a bong user in high school.
Oh, really?
I mean, I
Yeah.
honestly don't even know how I got through Chinese medicine school smoking as much weed as I did. I had this one study buddy. She wrote a really cool book. It's called Wild Plants or something. I'll find it and we'll put it in the show notes. Jessica Baker, amazing woman, and my like main study buddy in Chinese medicine. And she was such a fucking stoner from Humboldt. And so, you know, I mean, they used to grow mad
What
weed.
was her book about?
Is about herbs. It's about plant medicine, herbs, and there's a whole chapter in there on cannabis that's really enlightening about cannabis. And she and I would just smoke huge joints and then go for walks in the woods and study Chinese herbs. And I swear to God, it is a fucking miracle that I passed those state boards. Sometimes I'm like, huh? God did that for me.
Yeah.
I
there you
wish I
go.
hadn't been so stoned that whole time. I think I would remember more. But, you know, I know where to look shit up, so that's what's important.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey guys, what would it be like if you could last 10 times longer when you're having sex?
We are going to teach you how to gain massive confidence as a lover, all without performance anxiety, gimmicks, or prescription.
This course is perfect for you if you've ever been mortified by a sexual encounter that ended way too early.
Or if you've ever avoided intimacy out of fear that you won't last as long as your lover desires. Or maybe you long to give your partner multiple orgasms but can't last long enough to make that a reality.
Well, good news, we've got your back, and it's in our course, Last 10 Times Longer. Go to sexreimagined.com/last dash the number 10 X dash longer.
And for all of our favorite listeners out there, we are giving you a discount, 20% off, y'all. Just put in podcast 20, all caps, podcast 20 to get your 20% off of this phenomenal course that you're going to want to review more than once.
We cannot wait to see you inside this course. Plus, don't forget, we always got tons of bonuses. See you there. Well, I'm really glad that this topic came to our show because I'm really struck by how many people experience marijuana as just this big aphrodisiac. I wish my system was organized that way. I'll give it another shot. You know, I think maybe I just need some referrals for some very particular products that I could try to see if they could
Probably
sex things up for me.
Probably in the couch.
Yeah, I like that.
I never heard that before.
I will remember that, I think.
That's cute. Yeah.
And I really loved the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I know. That's
That was
fantastic too. Yeah. No, I always love having a little sip of marijuana before getting into a sexual
Yeah, I was
situation.
gonna
Definitely
ask you,
enhances it.
What's it like for you, pot
Oh, it's
sex?
so enhancing. I mean, when I was in Maui having a lot of tantric debut, first of all, I was in Maui, so endorphins were high already.
Mhm.
And then we were eating these edibles and I was playing with a lover who was really into, on the spectrum of, what's it called? The blueprint stuff.
Yeah, the
So
erotic blueprints.
the erotic blueprint. So this guy was really just straight up sexual, like cock, pussy, fuck, dirty talk, and that came alive for me through cannabis. It's like, fuck it. Yeah. Dirty talk is hot. Let's turn it on. Let's turn it up. And so it really, I feel like in that particular period when I was using cannabis, I was using Maui, I was using different levers and just really, not being in my normal sort of like bump and grind here in Santa Cruz. I feel like I really got to expand that whole spectrum of myself, and now you and I are both expanding into more kink, subdom, BDSM stuff. But even at that point, it was starting to like awaken and more intrigue into that realm. But I think the cannabis can be uninhibiting to what you have always believed and thought sexuality should be or ought to be or how you should be or how you ought to be. So it can really awaken things that you didn't know was there. Yeah.
When I think back on, because I'm straight up stoner. from the age of 16. I mean, I was smoking at 14, but really it was very much more in my life on a daily basis from like 16 until about 34, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was obviously sexually active during those years.
Yeah.
And I think it was just such a way of life for me that I'd never bookmarked, oh, I'm
Right.
getting high to have sex. It was just like,
Right.
I'm just getting high just because that's what I do.
But I'm having sex. That's just because what I do. I know. I
Yeah, it
have
was just like,
this
I
same
just did it before
experience.
cooking, did it before driving, did it before
Yeah.
watching a movie, did it before,
Yeah.
taking a shower. I don't know.
Yeah. I
It's
used
just a
to
part of life.
masturbate in my teens high all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
I've never been a real masturbator until my 40s.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
I mean,
Until
as
your
a little
40s?
girl, I remember like rubbing up on sheets and blankets and stuffed animals and stuff like
Yeah.
before puberty hit.
Mm-hmm.
But no, then it was just never really got into it. I was just like, I wish I was one of those people, but it's just not
Wow.
really compelling
I
to
was
me.
always a rubber. I was all throughout I have no idea when I started masturbating, maybe like 9 or something. Or
So I
earlier.
always had,
Okay.
earlier for me, but I
Yeah.
think that's common.
Yeah.
I always had orgasmic dreams.
Oh, okay. So it's
You
coming out in your
know,
dream space.
I had a crazy dream about you 2 nights ago, and I've been meaning to tell you.
Oh, well, let's tell
Are
everyone.
you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, wild dream. All right. So we're at some like retreat. It's me, you, and Judith. I don't know if we're staffing it or whatever. That's not important to the context of the story. However, so we're walking outside, and we walk outside, and I see this snake, and it's eating a peacock.
Okay.
So half the peacock
That's
is down
significant.
its gullet, totally. And I was like, oh my God, there's a snake. Everyone be careful. And you went into the house to go get a rattle because you were going to do some snake
voodoo.
dancing. So like now you're in like Burning Man clothes.
Sounds right.
And you're outside and you're like following the snake, rattling your rattles. It was almost like you had a rattle and a tambourine or something.
I think this is a premonition dream to our Crete retreat.
Well, you were doing some snake dancing, let me tell you. And then I was like, Willow, like, don't do that. I was nervous for you. I'm like, I think you're actually doing a snake. So then the snake was like, oh, I'm going to go after Willow. Fuck this peacock. Spit the peacock out. You were like doing a spin in your dance, so you didn't see the snake coming.
Oh
and
my
it
God.
went after you. And I was like, Willow, watch out. And you turned around and it jumped and bit your fucking shoulder.
What?
And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm trying to call 911. I can't get through to 911. I rush into the house. I'm like, help me, help me. Willow's been bitten by a snake. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Do I suck the venom out of this wound? Like,
Oh my God.
I'm like, Judith, get her into the house. And I'm trying to get people to call an ambulance. I'm like, do we rush her to the hospital or do we wait for the ambulance? We need venom stuff. We need the antidote to the venom. And then I woke up. My heart was beating so fast.
Oh my God.
It was so fast. And I'm like, okay, there's so much symbolism in that. So if anyone
So
wants to kind
much.
of decode the dream.
Oh, I'll decode it right now for
Oh,
you.
good.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in Greece, on the island of Crete, where we are planning to do a retreat, which we need to get on the books.
Yeah.
There are these ancient priestesses, like, even long before like the Roman time. And so the priestesses were dancing with the snakes. They were chanting with the snakes. They were doing a lot of snake medicine, and they were probably doing plant medicine too. And so in one of them in particular, in the temple of Malia, which is where this one priestess figurine was found, and she's holding these 2 snakes.
Mhm.
And then to take it even further, the peacock, like the snake eating the peacock, is very reminiscent of like this thing of transformation consuming the peacock, like the one who peacocks around, like the
That's
identity, ego, like look at me, like that kind of thing. So this transformation eating this ego identity.
Yeah.
And then we've got it biting my shoulder, and you pointed to your left shoulder, and I've
Yeah.
got some fucking
It
I got
was your
some
left
snake
shoulder.
venom in my left shoulder, y'all. I'm gonna go to the chiropractor
Really?
later and hopefully get it
Yeah.
sucked out, because my
Wow.
whole left side is like not doing well right now. which is
Interesting.
also left side feminine. And also, one time I had a Chinese medicine doctor say, oh, if you have stuff on the right, then you have issues with being right. And if you have stuff on the left, you have issues with being left out or left behind.
Wow.
And I'm about
very
to
interesting.
leave my town of 25 years. So there's all
Wow.
kinds of things
Lot
going
of
on in
stuff.
that dream.
And then there's you being very ritualistic and you're shaking and you're dancing
Yeah.
and your music and you were joining the snake. You were after some snake medicine.
Yeah.
And me like being so worried and like, oh my God, you're doing something so dangerous. Don't do that. I mean, I'm not usually the one that's like,
No,
everybody
not
settle
usually.
down. I'm all about breaking the rules. But this one, I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, you are begging for something bad to go down, girlfriend.
Well, let's see what happens with this move. Hopefully it
Well,
brings
and
more
there's the snake
transformation.
whisperer, right? So then
Yeah.
Matt was like, oh, this has got cock written all over it. And I was like,
Oh, there you go.
well, there we go.
There you go.
All
I've been playing with a
right.
lot of good cock lately, too.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, you guys. Thanks for joining us, and thank you, Larissa. Let us know your sexual adventures with cannabis in the
Yeah.
comments and
Yeah, please do.
in our
I'd love to hear.
hotline. And so please rate, review, and subscribe. We love ya.
Much love.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.